And a lot of people say, well, they take off and they squeal. You know, the tires would squeal, you know, on that dirt. Well, out there in that dirt was this clay, and it was adobe. And you could actually get that tire to squeal, and you could get a black footprint. That adobe was so hard that
you get footprints on it.
You could get a black. You could put rubber down on that that stuff.
And you used to paint them or something, didn't you, to give a bit of smoke sometimes?
Now those cars actually had enough horsepower.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with it is they had these old carburetors, and they were big carburetors. And at one time I went to see Paul Picard, the executive producer, about spending a little bit more money on the cars. I said, you know, we could save money, you know, on the show. And he, you know, as a producer, he's very interested in saving money. But he said, you know, but look, he says, Tommy, he says, we're just going to, you know, jump it, and it's total. It goes right to the crusher. I said, but what you got to understand is that car's got to make it to the ramp. I said, and I was at a Nikon film class for Nikon cameras, and Paul happened to be there. We didn't know each other were going to be there, so we got a chance to talk and everything like that. And I said, you know, I think I can save you probably $30,000 or $40,000 on an episode. And he was all ears about that. And then, you know, I gave him, I said, you know, if he could spend, you know, maybe $800 on a car, you know, give us, you know, let's put new ball joints in it. Let's put new tie rod ends in it. Let's put new bushings in it. I says, it's not very much money to do this stuff, but it makes the car safer. I says, you know, and if we could put new carburetors on it. I said, these other carburetors are just all worn out carburetors. And they go around a corner, and you want it to do this, and poof, you got flame out, you know, and then you got to get it started. And then if you got it flooded, then you got to put a set of spark plugs in it. And I says, you know, if we could do this, and I've got these little carburetors, and they were only about 400 CFM carburetors, 390 CFM. They were made for a Chevrolet with a tunnel around the 2 4-bars. And it was just throttle response. There was no chokes in them. There was no vacuum secondaries or anything. And what it is, you could just blow the tires off these cars. I mean, you can make these tires smoke, but you could push it right to the floor, and there was no backfiring up through the carburetor or anything. They were just small. And I mean, they were, you know, on the street, you may start wanting to give up at about 90, 95 mile an hour. But we didn't need it to go fast. We needed it to get to A to B as quick as possible and make it, you know, so the tires would spin and all the rest of the stuff. So Paul, he said okay, and we got the budget to go ahead and spend on these cars, and it made them. I think it made them safer. But when, you know, like I told him, I said, when you have to go to the ramp, it's got to make it to the ramp. I showed him one car that we had. I believe it might have been Henry Kinji that was driving it. Anyway, it was going down there, and steering was all, it was just terrible. And I remember he hit part of a road grader on the road that was parked on the side, put a big old dent in it. And I think I've even got a picture of it. If you look at the back quarter panel on the left-hand side, it had a big old dent in it. And then we went back there and we did it again, and I tried to fix it as much as I could, but when it hit the ramp, you could see that the right front wheel, the ball joint broke, and you could see the wheel was cocked on the thing. And I happened to have a picture of that, and I had it blown up to an 8x10. And, well, Paul goes, "We're not supposed to have cameras on the set, are we, Tom?" And I said, "No, sir, but this is what we got." I mean, we broke it on the ramp, and fortunately, the jump did go good. When it come down, it just kind of splattered and everything. I says, but then if we don't have another car, we got to send to the studio for another car. You spent all this money on putting a cage in and painted and everything for the stunt. It has a hard time getting to the ramp. And when you do this, and it doesn't make it, then you've got a crew standing around on overtime, 40, 50 people. When you average all those salaries out, and there's nothing we can do but wait for another car from the studio, or wait for me to get another car going. If your cars work, you won't have anything to do. So we I pitched that like that. It was, you know, save him money, but you know what? It really helped me, because then get Rich and the guys at the shop to go ahead and put all these new parts in it, and then when they come out, the cars run good. All I had to do was just go ahead and dial them in for whatever they wanted to do. We got the braking systems all figured out so they would slide, and all the stunt guys had their own favorite car. And it was just, nobody drove Corey's car. Nobody drove Alan's car. Of course, there's very few that wanted to drive Alan's car, because nobody could drive it the way he could. But most of the guys preferred the 3-3 motors. Alan, he wanted the biggest thing he could, but Alan had just so much talent. He could make that car do anything he wanted it to do, and he was a master at that. And I miss my old buddy, but with everybody having their cars that way, then when we got closer, we were going to maybe get one that they didn't feel that their car's going to get damaged, you know. And then if it got damaged, then it went into the shop to be fixed, and they may not got that car back for a week or two. So they'd always bring another one back. They'd call me and tell me, hey, look, I'm going to be in a bad situation, and, you know, give them another car. And then if they lost it or hit it or something, hey, fine. But they had one car that, you know, they just felt so comfortable in it. They could do it. They could get it done on the first take. The days got a little bit shorter and everything like that, but it made everybody look good, you know. And so it was just, you know, we worked together for 6 years. You know, most of the second unit stayed together. The same cameraman, the same DP. I mean, everybody was just about the same. All the stunt guys, most of the drivers and everything, all stayed and everything, and we had just a great time.
Wasn't there some camera car crash though, early on?
Yeah, that was. We don't talk about that very much, but it was very unfortunate. The car was actually kind of overloaded and whatever. Richie Birch was driving it, and it wasn't being used in a stunt. It wasn't being. They were just going to a different location. Got off on the edge of the road. They don't. Nobody ever admitted to whether the tire blew, the wheel gave out, if it was driver error or anything else like that. That was just. It was all just hush hush, and when Dukes was done, that camera car, it was still locked up in a vault. No one was allowed in there to see it without both attorneys. I used to go in there just to make sure they could take pictures, but you couldn't take anything off the car. Yeah. I mean, everything was on there. Richie Birch's tools, all the stuff that he had in his little bag of tricks that he used to have and everything like that, help out on the cars and stuff. Everything was in there. Nobody was allowed to do anything with it. I don't know whatever happened, but you know,
it's somewhere now.
Yeah, but that was just kind of a dark thing. They tried to make a bunch of, you know, that it was happened during stunts or anything. You know, our show was very safe. The safety officer, I can't think of his name right now. The only time he was ever out on the show is when we had helicopters, and that was very dangerous. You know, but.
They had that bad episode with the helicopter Indian Dunes, didn't they? On
John
Landis film. No, the John Landis film.
Oh, yeah, with Vic Morrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they did have that crash on another one, and then our helicopter pilot was a guy named Rick Holly, and that guy was just fantastic, and he was up in Alaska filming Runaway Train. Russell was actually working on the show. The stunt coordinator had to leave. Russell actually got to be the stunt coordinator on it to finish up the show, and he was Rick was in a whiteout coming back from the filming location and flew into some power lines and was killed. And then we had Chuck Tambero. He still works today. another fantastic guy. I mean, what he could do with those helicopters was just amazing. And we out there at we had a little bit more room and everything out there at Valencia Oaks, and he'd take the girls up, stunt girls up, and after lunch and everything like that, and he'd take that thing, he'd get that thing up above the treetops, and he'd put that helicopter in a stall, and you could hear him screaming in that helicopter as he dropped that thing down. And he had one of those tail rotors on it that had the band around it. And I mean, you wouldn't believe the tree limbs that guy's lopped off with that thing, but fantastic. I mean, it was his helicopter, but I mean, what a fantastic guy he was. But we lost Rick Holly early. We were still out there at Lake Sherwood when he was killed. And Russell had just started working for us, and